Now she wants to take it and run. My wife and I worked together. While I was out of town 12 years ago, unbeknownst to me, she had a one-night stand with a co-worker. At the time, she told her best friend what happened and then went for counseling due to guilty feelings. I have been unaware of the one-night stand, but do remember the counseling, although I was unaware of the true nature until very recently. Scroll forward. Best friend is getting divorced. At some point in the past, she discussed my wife's one-night stand with her soon-to-be ex-husband. Ex decides that since he is a miserable bastard, everyone should be miserable, and tells me about the cheating. I confronted my wife and she admitted everything. We have been going to individual counseling and couples marriage counseling. This was a one-time event. My wife is extremely remorseful, and other than this single event that happened 12 years ago has been all I could ask for. I have every belief that she has come completely clean. We are on a healing path. Here is the issue. I am now retired from work. She still works there, as does the other person. They work pretty much side by side as they always have. I have no trust issue with this. What I would like though is for her to inform him that I am aware of their history. At one point, I also worked side by side with this man. I cannot stomach the fact that he may think he got away with this. I am also considering asking her to give me his cell number as verification that she did as I asked, and also so that I may pass a message. Actually, a threat. The threat is not necessary, but it would make me feel better. I could contain myself to a message if I had to. Maybe. I have not yet discussed this with my wife nor with our counselors. Am I being unreasonable? We're both air traffic controllers. This is a very high-paying job. You have to understand, they have worked together since the incident for 12 years without me knowing. There is no relationship beyond that one night. That, I am certain of. I am not going to tell her to quit now. She is 3 years from retirement herself. He is leaving sooner. It would be financially ruinous to our family to do that now. I know this man well. We worked together for years. He is a notch in his belt guy. He frankly wanted nothing to do with her once he was able to sleep with her. He and I were never friends, but we worked together. I cannot accept that he feels he got over on me or is laughing in my face. It is the only thing that I still haven't accepted. I have forgiven my wife. She made a mistake and is owning it. Yes, she lied about it. If I knew at the time, I would have left her. I have a different perspective looking back. We have a good life, a good marriage. She made a huge mistake. Hating her now will not make my life better. Him, I cannot forgive. I knew what you would say about the threat. But what is wrong with her telling him that I know? It feels like closure for some reason. Like he no longer owns the space in my head. To be honest, making her do it is kind of my way of forcing her to carry some of the pain that I feel. I totally understand the skepticism. I've felt it too. The way the story came to me was as a single event. She saw a therapist who advised her that since it was a one-time thing and over, that there was no reason to risk her marriage by telling me. That is her story. I don't know. I do know she saw a therapist around that time for unknown reasons. We have been as honest as I feel we could be since the reveal. I understand cheaters, cheat mantra. I really don't think that's the case here. Anyway, I have pressed. She swears on a river of tears that this is everything. There is nothing else for me to do. I can't think of a single one of our friends that don't look at us and wish they had our marriage. I'm not going to give that up because of one mistake so long ago in the opinion, but I do not mind hearing them, that she cheated a lot more often on me by people that have never met us. I must say to the doubters, I am not in denial. I cannot explain how I know, but I do. I guess it is hard to believe in a true one-night stand. I get it, but if it ever happened, that crap is buried so deep, no one is ever finding it. I cannot live in fear of things that may exist despite all evidence to the contrary, because it happens differently for a lot of other people. We have cried a lot of tears, more than I ever thought I was capable of in my entire lifetime. In spite of it all, my wife has been the best thing that ever happened to me. I wish I didn't know about this one incident and I would have died happy. But here we are. I am not going to overturn all that is good in our life for something that happened 12 years ago. I did not think I was in denial. I have to be careful. I know it is hard for you to understand. I am currently happy in my marriage. I do not want to poison it. But maybe I was in denial. I am thinking hard about this now. We will have some serious conversations with a therapist. Many of you say divorce, but I don't want that. No, I am not a beta or whatever you want to call me. I told my friend that I am ashamed that I want to save my marriage after this. He said it takes a stronger man to try and save it. But whatever. I did text the co-worker. I kept it non-confrontational and as unemotional as I was able. The coworker confessed they had an affair. She tried to hide it, but the guy didn't want to deal with the guilt. One evening, as we sat quietly after dinner, I looked over at her. She was reading, lost in the pages of her book. This was the woman I had loved for so many years. Now, a shadow hung between us, a specter of betrayal that refused to fade. I think we need to talk, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine, a silent understanding passing between us. The conversation that followed was the hardest I'd ever had. Words like divorce and separation were spoken, each one a sharp sting. I explained how the trust we had was shattered, and despite her remorse and our efforts, I couldn't see past the betrayal. I watched as she packed her things over the next few days, each item a reminder of the life we had built together. When the day came for her to leave, the house felt empty, hollow. As I stood at the door, watching her drive away, a part of me wanted to call her back, to rewind time and fix what had been broken. But I knew it was too late for that. The past couldn't be undone, and sometimes, moving forward means letting go. My comment: you should be thankful she is out the door. You can't deal with this nonsense. Look at all the other recent stories. Story 2. I am truly in a jam and don't know what or how to think. Proceed. I am hoping for guidance here. A former client of mine turned into a long-distance friend for the past few years. He told me he had divorced years ago and was living in Las Vegas and building a family office, investment fund. In professional mastermind groups, he was always very well respected and I thought he was extremely smart. But I also knew he had a binge drinking issue that I witnessed while at some of these events. We have texted and chatted back and forth for years, and I talked him through some tough times, over the phone, when his brother died, etc. So, I get, let's call him Mike, and the emotional pain he has. He has no family. Everyone has passed away and then he divorced. No children. So, when I told him I had a last-minute fundraiser to plan at my home 3 months ago, he offered to come and help and fill the room with some of his investors too. After he was in town for a few days, he was clear he was interested in a relationship with me and during the time of hanging out with him, and dinners etc. But his level of drinking was shocking to me, and he was consistently leaving me the bill. I thought, why am I paying for this multi-millionaire's dinner and bar tabs? Things didn't make sense. So, on the last dinner, he would conveniently disappear to the bathroom when the bill arrived. I waited for his return. He acted like he couldn't find his wallet and then I just sat quietly. He eventually pulled out his wallet and when he ran his credit card it said insufficient funds. So, I pretended not to see, and he pulled out another card. Same thing. Insufficient funds. I pulled out my card and paid. When we got in the car, I said, "Is everything okay?" He was probably 8 to 10 drinks in by this point, and he said he was going through some tough financial times, but he will be fine. Everything is great. He flew back to Las Vegas and then referred me to a few clients, and we currently share 2 clients. We were on work calls together with these clients and all seemed to be fine. However, I began to notice that he would avoid texting me back around 7 p.m. PST and he'd say that he fell asleep early etc. But seems pretty odd, right? Long story short, I discovered that he was indeed divorced on paper 3 years ago, but it was only to protect her assets. He is broke and he never moved out of their house and he was still living like a married couple with her in Las Vegas. He said that he told her that he was moving on with me and she threw him out of the house and cut off all access to money. Although, it sounds like they have none overall, at least liquid. He ended up flying to my state for a family office meeting and told me this and that he's homeless. He has no access to money, no credit cards and wanted to sleep on my couch after the conference that I was already attending due to our mutual clients. I told him that I couldn't allow that because I have my 17-year-old son half of the time, but I'd help him as much as I could. In the meantime, I called another friend who knows Mike well and asked what was going on. And he told me that Mike does have millions coming in a big investment deal next year, but right now, he is dying on the vine. He said that he thought Mike's car was repossessed as well and he is considering selling shares of some of his real estate to survive. Over the last 2 weeks, I have allowed him to stay with me on the days I don't have my son and I've paid for his hotel every other night. I have paid for all his meals and allowed him to use my car. I have taken him to nice dinners and he's drunk bottles of wine on my tab. He told me he wants to eventually marry me and when his investments come in, he will repay me with many things etc. I have confirmed through outside sources that he truly is respected in his field and that these companies exist. And even the clients we share clearly think very highly of him. However, I am very concerned because I don't understand how someone could have no money and be homeless. I've talked to his friend, business partner for the past few days confidentially and he's asked me to help Mike because he says he will get paid from a current investment client early next week to the tune of $100,000. But, until then, he has nothing. Of course, he never told him he's broke out of fear, embarrassment. Personally, I'm not well. I have been extremely stressed and overwhelmed. I have worried so much for him and for my own well-being. I've been drinking daily as well and end up feeling terrible the next day. My money is being depleted fast. In the past month, Mike has cost me about $7,000 because he also invited me to the professional conference in my state for 3 days so I could meet potential clients. I haven't secured any new clients from that yet, but he left me with the hotel bill and dinner tabs. I have no idea how he can be homeless and without money for food and also raising capital for very prominent founders, companies. It is mind-boggling to me. Bottom line, the reason he's not calling and asking anyone else for money and help is because it would ruin his reputation with his colleagues. So, I am trying to help him as much as I can. I love him as a person, but he's lied countless times to me. He's taken money and continues to do so. And he's a binge drinker. I reached out to his wife, ex-wife and left a message and text. She didn't reply. Obviously, I had no idea I was getting involved with someone who was still very much attached to another woman. He is here in my house all day because he has nowhere else to go. I'm not sure how to handle any of this. I had a business meeting yesterday and was gone for a few hours, and I realized it was a great break. I have been divorced and living alone for the past 2 years, and maybe I'm stuck in my ways, but it's really hard to have your BF in your house all the time and also having to pick up after him, drop off his dry cleaning, make sure he has a ride back and forth to the hotel that I'm paying for when my son is with me. It's a lot, and this morning I have considered ending things completely with him. I will miss him, but I think this is just too much to deal with. And while I know he is so charismatic and eloquent in professional settings, he is also the guy who I can't get out of my house and who isn't flushing the toilet. So how do I tell him today? I guess I can just text him while I'm out at a business meeting today that he needs to go find another air that I can't pay anymore. I just feel paralyzed and very sad, and worried for him, too. But it will be a relief at least for the first 24 hours or so that he's not in my space. His ex was Mormon, so I don't think he could drink around her. And he talks about that quite a bit. But he drinks around me, that's for sure. And what I do not like is it's beginning to impact the amount I drink and how I feel and perform the next day. For my own business and clients, I just don't know how to handle ending this. He is in my home and telling him to leave isn't going to be easy. He talks about his issues with abandonment and he's struggled with that for years, due to his entire family passing away before him. And I have empathy to that. So, I think I will just handle this carefully. I'll tell him that my son is coming tonight and I am sorry, but he's going to have to go back to an air. But this time, I'm not going to pay for it. But I'm honestly not sure if he can afford it yet. I may have to just pay for one night tonight and then tell him in the that he's on his own. That may make me feel better, at least. I haven't seen him as a con man, but I see that it could be construed that way. He has gotten a lot of cash and energy, sympathy, kindness out of me. No doubt. Totally agree. I just realized that all of his hotel options nearby are super expensive tonight. Ugh. But I want to give him one more night, so I can get him out and not feel bad. I agree, it is just hard because I do have so much history with him and his colleagues that I know, really like and respect him. Obviously, they don't know what he's done to me, but he is well respected by the professional colleagues that I've met and shared time with him. It's all just mind-boggling and hard to swallow. It was cheating on her with me, or she wouldn't have kicked him out of the house when she found out about me. And even if they were just living together for financial reason and just friends through divorce, he should have told me this. I think his financial future will improve, but for how long? And even if he came to me and said, hey, I'd like to live with you and pay half the lease and get a car too, I would still take pause and my gut would say no. I see my own behavior changing around him, as I feel like I need to entertain him, etc. And the drinking is not good for me either. And it's not easy going out to eat every night and not having wine. And that is a bad influence for me. One of his colleagues offered to give him a loan based off his equity shares, and I heard this is on speakerphone. He was considering it until he heard the terms of the loan. He said he would just wait for his payday this week instead. I heard him on the phone this morning with the bank and the wires are coming in. But I heard the bank say they would not have the funds available until tomorrow. I'm still uncertain how much he will have, but certainly he will be able to afford a hotel stay. So far, I don't think that will be a problem. But yes, that was one of my initial concerns. But I heard the client we share on speakerphone telling Mike yesterday about how grateful he is to work with him and that he has learned so much from him, etc. So even this guy, who has had several large exits and is extremely astute, has no idea that Mike is struggling and is currently homeless. It gave me pause for a couple of reasons, and it also made me realize that he's very good with his showmanship and charisma. I'm not the only one who believes his baloney. I just got too deep in. So, the update tonight is I dropped him at his air. He paid for dinner tonight, said that he got a deposit of a couple $100 and would pay for dinner. Whatever. He told me he isn't getting paid now until at least Friday. I haven't told him I'm out yet. I got him to his air and I plan to text him in the morning. I may pay for one more night, but I'm just so spent. He broke down crying at dinner about how exhausted he is, and how he's trying so hard to rally more business, and he feels so lost. I do feel for him. I don't think he's 100% con artist, but he isn't handling this properly. That is for sure. God, I wish I could get his ex-wife to speak with me. I would love to know the crap I'm not being told, so at least I get to sleep alone tonight. But I must admit tomorrow won't be easy. I think the best thing I can do is tell him I have to head out of town for a client. However, he will want to know why he can't stay in my house instead of a hotel or air. I'm not sure the proper answer to that, but at least he's out of my house. For now, just need to solidify my next steps. I think I am just emotionally attached right now. I need to break the attachment. I have, for years, felt as if he was a friend who would always have my back. Probably more of a fallacy or imagined safety net than anything else at this point. So, it's going to take a bit of undoing and breaking of that habit. I can honestly say while he's an extremely attractive and very smart, charismatic man, I'm no longer attracted to him. When we first became a couple, I was over the moon. But when my respect was compromised, Everything else fell apart. Not to mention seeing someone drinking that heavily. That does some damage to their perceived competence. It's just going to be tough to get past the fallacies. He is not what I thought. And unfortunately, I don't think he will ever be that person. Even when he has millions, he will still be the binge drinker who lied to me about his ex-wife and begged me for survival and bilked me out of a lot of money and energy. That can't be undone. I am around his colleagues and I know firsthand the assets exist. Some of the company owners are my clients too, but when they sell the company is up for debate. I also heard him actively turning down an offer to finance a loan based off his shares, and he declined because he said the terms were not good enough. So, that's why I think he will end up doing that after all, when I'm not involved any further. It's been quite an evening. I dropped him at the hotel and I told him after I left via text that I'm sorry, but I can no longer pay. I said I am very strapped myself and I have my son to focus on, and that went haywire fast. He said that I'm a liar. He should have never trusted me, that he shouldn't have to date single moms, that he can't believe I dumped him at a hotel and shielded him from my son. I told him he was being rude and to stop and that I wished him well. Then the insults continued via text and I finally snapped and said, "You called me pathetic, made fun of the fact that I'm a single mom, lied blatantly to me and led a double life while your ex-wife took advantage of my kindness. Thousands of dollars given to you, and couldn't even flush the damn toilet, and you are now a liability to me, and I'm done." He kept insulting me via text, and then this morning I woke up to a screenshot of his bank account with only $50 in it, saying he has no means to survive and asked to borrow $400. Sent me his bank info, then said he wouldn't contact me further if he could just have that to get another night at the hotel. I sent him the money and he replied with "Thank you, but it's pretty pathetic that you won't talk to me. You are pathetic." Then said he thought I was more emotionally stable than this, and that now I'm screwing him up in the process. I haven't replied, and I won't, but, wow, I just wanted to have peace that he could at least get through today. But I'm done. My charity case is closed. And yes, I have some work to do on myself as to why I helped so much in the first place. I'm sad, and I'm also angry. Someone who I had thought so much of, at one point, has turned into this. It's shocking, that's for sure. He has so many people in his ecosystem, and he just did everything he could to manipulate me. I shouldn't have to date single moms. When I sent the $400, I said, "Remember, it's this pathetic single mom who is paying your bill again." He's definitely history, but he can't stop with the insults. I haven't blocked him yet, because honestly his messages only strengthen my anger and resolve. He said he will never forgive me for this, that I'm crazy. "I'll never forgive you for this, and I've made sure people are watching." Then said if I get hurt, we get hurt. Said he was going to share my texts with people. I'm like, fine, let them know I was feeling used after paying your bills and then some. Said he hated my city anyway. You live in such a toilet of a city. No wonder you are miserable. I'm just like, wow, I'm struggling a bit this morning. He hasn't reached out at all since his insults after I gave him the money. He had called me several times and I didn't pick up, so that was why he said that he should have known that I had terrible character, and that I'm pathetic for not talking to him. Since then, he's been silent. I didn't text or call him last night and stayed strong. It wasn't hard until this morning, but it is because I was thinking in fantasy instead of reality. Every time I tell myself the truth, I know that I need to stay away from him. We've just been in contact in some form or fashion for years, as long-distance friends. But, of course, over the last couple of months, we were inseparable. Of course, that's because he moved in. Anyway, I loved him as a person, then as a romantic partner until I saw his insane level of drinking, and his bizarre behavior when the drinking was underway. And of course, his consistent abuse of my kindness and finances. But, overall, this morning, I'm sad. I know he's headed to Miami this morning, and I have to let that go. I don't want him here in Austin with me anymore, because it was a daily problem. Is my son coming tonight? If so, what am I going to do with Mike? Where is he going to stay? It was a daily issue and worry. He is no longer my problem. It's hard because he's not a bad person at the core. I think he's just wounded and desperate right now. Maybe time will give me more anger over the situation. At least I hope it does. It's hard when you know someone for years, and then realize he isn't what you truly believed about them. I will miss him, in many ways. In fact, today has been a day filled with tears, but probably because my hopes and dreams were so different than my reality with him. Interesting. This crossed my mind today. It hit me that he may come into some very nice income next year, etc., but he wouldn't have even been able to buy me a ring. For flip's sake, he didn't even have a car. What I was feeling was smothered. I was realizing he was staying indefinitely in my home unless I paid for him to go elsewhere for a night or two. He said he wanted to get married to me at some point. But how? He couldn't. He doesn't even have credit to be able to put a ring on a credit card. Of course, now that he's gone, I'm sure he's been pushed into selling some of his assets so that he can survive. But he's on a downward spiral, or so it seemed. I don't miss him. I miss the idea of him, and what could have been, until I realized who he really is. My comment, One pattern is that the men she's chosen tend to be huge drinkers, perhaps meeting them or doing exciting things while both are drunk. Then the light shines brightly in sober times and one or both of them are realizing they don't like what they see quite as much. So, another thing to work on. Reducing the role alcohol plays in your dating life would appear to be a good move. Story 3. A bonus personal story to some single man out there. I am 48-year-old male, separated for 2 years, officially divorced for 7 months from a 22-year relationship, 19 years married, in good physical health and fitness, 5 feet 9, 200 pounds, 24% body fat, regularly get compliments from women on how buff I look, and comfortably employed, living in my own house, still paying mortgage, and helping my only child with her college tuition, for another 3 years. I recently decided to get back into dating. A 48-year-old woman reached out to me on Hinge and I went on a date with her. She was much heavier than her profile pics, which had only her face in all the pictures, no full body shots. She was below average looking in person, but a nice single lady with 3 kids, ages 16, 20, and 24. The conversation with her was kind of boring, but drinking and interacting with other random strangers in the bar and barkeeps made the evening a bit better. Long story short, we ended up sleeping together on our first date at her home. The bonding wasn't great, I did not enjoy it, but she did seem to enjoy it. All in all, I don't think this is the right person for me. How do I go about letting her know she is not it? Since I am new to this dating scene after nearly 25 years, I thought I would get some advice from this channel. Here are some questions running through my head. Should I just tell her that I don't think we are compatible right away, or should I slowly disconnect over a few weeks? Should I give it another couple of more dates, though my mind is kind of made up at this time? Should I just ghost her, which does not feel good, right to me? Should I do it in person, over a text message, or over a meal? I am learning to look deeper into pictures now as I am going through Hinge profiles. For some reason, in my area, Southwest Ohio, Hinge is only showing me heavyset women in the 35-plus age range. I don't know if all the women in the 35-plus age group are generally going to be on the heavier side, or if it is Hinge for some reason its algorithm has decided to show me only heavyset women, or only those women come on Hinge. In any event, my Hinge and Bumble options seem very unhealthy. Why aren't there weight filters on these apps just like height filters? Update: I met the woman in person, bought her really nice dinner, and let her know we are not a good match and ended it. I had dinner with her, no chemistry or interesting conversation. At least she asked me one question about myself last night, which university my daughter was studying, because I mentioned I won't be able to meet with her next week because my daughter is in town. So, I did get one question after all about myself in about 7 hours of in-person conversation, both dates combined but excluding time for bonding and online chatting. So, when I dropped her off at her home, I let her know that we are not a good match and that I was looking for something different. Wished her well. She seemed to take it well as such awkward conversations go. There were no tears or snappy remarks, etc. I did meet with the woman in person and let her know we are not a good match and broke it off. The breakup conversation went okay, given it is an awkward conversation, and she seemed fine with it, no harsh words, etc. One thing that she said during the breakup talk that stood out to me, she seemed a bit surprised that I had decided that we were not a good match in just 2 dates and it would have to be longer. I am not sure if I needed 3 or 4 dates to draw this conclusion. This leads me to the following 2 questions. Maybe I should create separate threads for these questions, for the community to learn from your collective wisdom. What do you all think? If I meet a woman and after the first date I decide a strong no, does it make sense to do multiple dates to see if that changes, particularly if I don't find the woman physically attractive? Does it make sense for me to form a relationship with a woman that I don't find physically attractive? The reason for this question is the good old saying, be with someone who wants to be with you, rather than who you want to be with. So, as a man, what do you suggest if a man is not physically attracted to the woman to begin with? My comment: seems like she was really into OP, maybe have one more date and see how it goes. If no electric sparks between you both, be honest with her and wish her well.